And my fourth tip is the one where people don't adhere to and tend to get injured the most. So by the end of this video, you're gonna learn how to implement strength training in and around your running program ahead of your big running season. I'll be sharing my 4 tips on how to structure your strength training in and around your running season. Having a successful season means you're training more consistently. And most people tend to push the boundaries very hard with the strength training side of things, as well as the running side of things, to why you'll get injured. So my first tip is to have a 12-month season planner. Pick the key events that you want to be able to race in, and you're able to work backwards from there. So for myself, I've got the Sydney Marathon in late August, and that would be my key event for this 2025 season. I break my periods into 3 blocks, what we call the mesocycles. They generally last for about 3 months each, and with each different phase, the gym cycle will be focusing on different components, such as developing power, strength, muscular endurance, and speed. Given that we're about 7 months away from August, this is currently called the pre-season phase. We'll be generally focusing on developing strength and power. So how fast can you move weight, and then how much can you move weight? So more about the running side of things, you'll just be focused on developing base there and just getting the legs used to turning over again. To give you a better idea of how I would structure a season, I've created a season planner where I look at the 12th month cycle into 3-month cycles leading into the Sydney Marathon. And in each of these cycles, you'll see that I'll start to focus highly more on power. In the first phases, strength, muscular endurance will start to kick in later on. And then the running side of things in terms of speed and cardiovascular endurance starts to kick in later on. Whilst all in all, there's a crossover, therefore you're never losing out on any components. You're just upkeeping certain components and then building on other components. The frequency to how much I'll be spending time in the gym, currently in this pre-season period, 2 to 3 times in the gym, broken down into a hip hinge focused session, a knee dominant focused session, and then an overall body session. So in all of these gym sessions, I generally have a key element focusing on the bigger muscle groups of the lower legs, and then I'll throw in those accessories for the upper body and then the core. As we start to get closer into the in-season, my gym will start to drop off and I'll start to do lighter weights, more repetitions, and then pick up more of the running. Now there are 4 variables that I tend to adjust when I go into a strength program. The range of motion, so how much movement you're going in, your intensity, your volume, so how much you're lifting, how much effort you're putting into it, and then the tempo, so the speed of movement as well. In the pre-season, I tend to go at a slower tempo, but then I also have an element of power, so how fast I move. Because these 2 take a lot more effort and a lot more soreness can come out of it, just gives you a bit more time to recover in between sessions. And given that running isn't one of the biggest focuses at the moment, I could just relax and turn my legs over during those easy runs. These efforts are generally quite hard. So what we call rate of perceived exertion, or how hard you find the movement, which is rated out of 10, 10 being like the extreme hardest and 1 being nothing at all. They generally sit around the 8 to 9 out of 10 mark. Otherwise, I call it the reps in reserve, which I like to utilize much better, because day to day, your intensity may change depending on external stresses, fatigue. So it just gives you a better understanding of how to calibrate your weights on the plate. So for example, in the trap bar deadlift, today we're doing 4 sets of 5 with 2 reps in reserve, meaning that I'm gonna pick a weight that at 7 reps, because I prescribed myself 5, 7 will be my ultimate last rep that I could do at the same speed, the same effort, without any technical breakdown. But as the season gets closer, I'll start to drop this intensity a little bit, to focus more on muscular endurance. So hitting that 10 to 12 repetition mark, meaning that I would have to drop the weight so I can hit that rep range. And in terms of the intensity, so the RPE or the reps in reserve, I would still want to keep it around that rep in reserve of 2 or RPE of 8, meaning that it's still challenging, but I still have the high volume, which then I'll be targeting the muscular endurance side of things. So building a bigger petrol tank, which is less taxing in comparison to these power movements. The other thing to consider too is your range of motion. So for example, as I get closer to a running event in the last week or 2, instead of doing a trap bar deadlift from the floor, I'll put it into these pins, and then what I'll do is that I'll deadlift from my mid-shin height to hip height. So therefore, I'm not gonna give my muscles more fatigue and more range to work in. I'm just stimulating it just so that it can continue to fire up. The second tip is prioritize your running over strength training, regardless of the season. So with life, things tend to get into the way. And if you generally try to squeeze in everything, you might start to burn out. It is a long season ahead, so generally in the earlier seasons, you want to just prioritize running, if anything, just to get the legs turning and build the mileages underneath. There's an opinion on do the hard sessions together. In my opinion, in an ideal world, perfect. But some people don't have the time, run hard and then go gym hard. But in the ideal situation, if you do have the ability to do so, my recommendation is to space it between 6 odd hours. But again, if you have to, do it right after the session. Just make sure that it's short, intense, and then that's it. There are 3 opinions to this. You could run, then gym, which is ideal for runners who are generally looking for performance. Running is a priority because if you do your strength work, you'll start to get fatigued, which can mess up your running mechanics. And splitting the sessions by 4 to 6 hours in between to allow partial recovery. Opinion 2 is strength, then run. This is ideal for people who are in the off season, just want to put a bit of bulk, or strength focused runners. Strength training before your gym just allows you to have maximal effort in your lifts. And running after should be of a lower intensity, such as strides or an easy run, just to get the legs moving. Just be careful though that this method can make you feel a little bit heavier when you run because of the fatigue. And the third option is the back-to-back sessions. This is ideal for people who have limited time. So a session could include a 30 to 40 minute hard effort or a long distance and then followed up by a gym session. The strength session generally will be focused on quality of movement rather than max effort. And the other tip is that if you're doing this type of method of back-to-back, prioritize the compound movements. The tip is to be adaptable. Have a plan A, plan B, and plan C throughout the whole season. Therefore, if you ever wake up quite fatigued, you've got a plan B or C and you're not needing to stress yourself out to hit quality sessions. So having a plan A session, if everything's ideal and everything's working well and you feel great, go as prescribed, hit it hard. Plan B is that if you're a little bit fatigued but you feel like you've got the oomph into you, just adjust the volume, the intensity. So reducing sets or reps in your runs or gym session. And plan C is that if you wake up and you're just feeling like average, then you just reduce the volume and the intensity and go for an easy run or just move in the gym with easy basic compound movements. Therefore, prioritizing recovery. And my last tip where I see people start to walk into the physio door is that they don't listen to their body. Listening to your body and prioritizing the recovery concept is so much more important than just pushing through sessions and hoping for the best. If anything, these sessions could actually be more detrimental to you because your nervous system, your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, potentially even the bone structures too, just need a little bit more time to recover and reset from the stimulus that you've had from previous sessions or external stresses, whether you're not sleeping well because you've got a new dog, you've got a new baby, work stress, all that type of stuff can have a play in your day-to-day function. So monitor some of these variables that I'm about to mention. Your perceived effort. If you wake up and something that should be very easy seems to be so hard today, then you definitely can be quite fatigued. Take it back a notch, and if you have to take some certain breaks in between your runs and walk it, so be it. If it's in the gym and you just need to drop the weights just to move, do so, unless you're getting some stimulus without stressing the body too much. Your resting heart rate level. If you know your average resting heart rate level is say 50, and then it's greater than 10% at resting when you're feeling some of these fatigue symptoms, then your nervous system is under fatigue. Some of this may happen because of what we call like adrenal fatigue. You've maybe done a massive 5K PB or a PB in your lift. Your body and your nervous system needs that time to just reset and just consolidate what you've done. If we're talking about the running side of things and what to adjust on those variables, look at your paces. Have you been hitting paces faster than ever? Are you hitting a higher volume in distance or time on feet this week or last week in comparison to other weeks? And the other thing is looking at elevation. If you're running a new path and there's higher elevation than normal, your legs could be quite fatigued. So by taking all this into consideration, listening to your body and reducing the stimulus, it will give you the best opportunity to recover, reset, and allow your body to adapt to the new stimulus and actually might help you with improvement in performance. And into another video, I could break down session to session on how you can program your strength training session and what to focus on, such as moving from a compound movement, plyometrics, into utilizing single leg stability and machines. because I guarantee you, if you utilize it to its most efficiency, you'll be moving so much better with better strength gains, and therefore training more consistently and hitting your PBs. And just a disclaimer, this is my perspective on how I would look at a season planner. And this may not suit every single athlete. Some athletes may perform better with a different structure compared to someone who is new into the sport. If you guys have any questions, please drop it down into the comments box below. And if you find this video helpful, let me know. But otherwise, see you guys later.